My name is Dan Dorval, and I'm President and CEO of Dorval and Chorne Financial Advisors. I am an independent certified financial planner and author of my book, Financial Success for the Rest of Us, Reality-Based Financial Planning for Mainstream America.
Hi, my name is Leah Woodley. I'm an associate financial advisor with Dorval and Chorne Financial Advisors. Our conversations discuss what it means to do quality of life planning in all areas of your life.
So Dan, in our last video, you mentioned something about our group advisory agreements. Can you tell me more about what that looks like?
Well, with our first relationship being a large hospital with over 5,000 employees, we had to come up with a way of dealing with that. And over time, the benefits director would explain to me, like, Dan, I have advisors coming to me all day, every day, and they'll do this type of thing for free because, of course, all they're looking for are leads in order to sell stuff. And he's like, I don't want to do that. Our employees don't like that. So how do we structure this in a way that actually makes sense? And so I did a lot of research, talked to compliance attorneys, and ultimately came to the conclusion that to have a truly fiduciary contract, and all of our group advisory agreements are truly fiduciary contracts, meaning we have to do what's in the best interest of the people we're helping rather than ourselves. I felt it was critically important to be paid by the entity itself. And that is a foundational aspect of how we structure these agreements. So the hospital started to pay me, and right away it was kind of a weird thing. He was actually paying us to do seminars, but the real value was then meeting with the individuals after that. And then over time, we realized that didn't work very well, because if I didn't do any seminars, I didn't get paid, and yet I was still helping potentially hundreds of their employees. So with that, we changed the contract and realized that if we were paid on a consistent basis, whether that was per participant, per hour, however somebody wants to structure that, we wanted it to be based on the value that was being delivered. Now, the reason why it's so important for an employer to pay us, or a membership organization to pay us, is because that's what truly puts us on the same side as the participant when we're helping them. If we weren't paid at all, we would obviously have to sell something in order to be compensated.
Yeah.
Well, if we're being paid through the plan, we have a very strong vested interest in providing this fiduciary level advice, because if we ever upset anyone, the first thing they would do is go back to the health system or whatever organization we're working with, and they would say, why are these people harassing me or doing something inappropriate? And we would lose the agreement. So we wanted to make sure that the compensation from the entity ended up being more impactful to us than any potential compensation we could ever receive from an individual. And that means that the agreement truly ends up being fiduciary.
Wow. So it sounds like you really fought hard to maintain that fiduciary standard for our group. How do you feel the nurses perceive the value? Do you think that because they're not having to pay, they still value our service?
It's interesting. I think the nurses, they looked at it initially with a sense of distrust. I mean, a lot of nurses give us feedback that they don't trust their employers in the same way that they maybe used to a long time ago. And so our program, stemming from the employer or the association down through the members, I think initially there was some distrust. And as I met with these people and I helped these people, one of the phrases that I came up with was, if you appreciate having access to this benefit, make sure you go back to your HR department, let them know that you appreciate it. And nurses, the one thing about them is when somebody actually treats them with respect and appreciation, they actually go back and tell everybody they know. So over time, all of these different people we were helping, it just spread like wildfire through word of mouth, social media, and they started to go, hey, you should go talk to these people, because this isn't like talking to our 401k custodian about basic investment stuff. These are really valuable discussions. And over time, what happened is we became such experts in the benefits of these people that the Minnesota Nurses Association reached out to me and said, hey, what if we were able to do this for nurses across all of our different member health systems as compared to just one hospital? And that's when things really started to grow and accumulate. So we added people to our firm, and ultimately you joined us. You helped me with these types of relationships, and with that expertise, then at one point, Hazelden and Betty Ford Foundation reached out to me back in 2006, and they said, hey, we would like to do this as well. So we created a unique relationship with them, and my partner John is actually the person who's in charge of that relationship, which is a national level type of relationship, even though their primary location is in Minnesota.
Well, you mentioned something about, the custodian. Why can't they just go to Fidelity and get the help that we're providing?
Yeah, it's a great question, because whether it's Fidelity or Empower or any of these large entities that sponsor the bigger 401k plans, they have an 800 number. They have chat features. A lot of the health systems actually have like a dedicated service person who can come out and talk to the membership. And that's all considered free under the plan fees and all of that. But the feedback we've gotten from the people that we help is many of them met with one of those representatives before they ever came to see us. And then when they came to see us, they go, okay, hold on. This is completely different. You're talking to me about Social Security, Medicare. You're talking about my pension, any insurance benefits I have, all of those different things, where the Fidelity person just said, hey, you're in a target date fund or you're in this asset allocation. I think that's good. And you should try to contribute as much as you possibly can. And so our meetings, which tend to run like an hour and a half for most of the people we're helping, they describe that compared to maybe 15 minutes with this person, and the value is just a completely different type of thing. The other issue there is we are completely independent. So we're not tied to any company or product or service. Like if I'm Fidelity, I have a vested interest in keeping money at Fidelity, whether that's against your quality of life or not. And we see
Yeah.
that type of thing playing out as well. So the independence is critically important. And then being compensated directly by the entity rather than the employee or the membership, that's also a critically important aspect.
I completely agree. We see it time and time again where, people think that they can just turn to their custodian for advice, but the custodian isn't looking at the totality of their picture. They don't know about the kids. They don't know about the pension. They don't know about the dreams that people have down the line. And so I think what we provide is very valuable. Talk to me about, when it comes to the group advisory agreement, what that looks like if someone is interested, if there is a hospital system, how would they begin the process of getting set up with us?
So one of the things that was challenging is the idea of, as we grew, how do we start to deal with these thousands of different households that we're privileged to help? And so over time, and this is part of the way that you ultimately joined us, is I was like, how do we provide kind of our foundational planning in a way that's very convenient for employees to access? And we created an AI virtual planning environment over the last couple of years. You and I have worked closely on that in order to have a customized online virtual experience, and that can be set up for any sponsoring entity. So if a large employer, typically over 500 employees, but it's case by case basis, but most of our agreements cover people or companies with more than 1,000. If somebody comes to us, we would create first off this customized virtual planning environment that we call Quala. Then that is not meant to be an online solution. It's meant to be an online engagement tool where these people start to get some answers. They start to get engaged with their benefits. They get engaged with financial planning as a whole. but then that's married to an individual certified financial planner, a real person, me and you in many cases, who are helping these individuals. But now we've got all of their information through Quala, and it's very easy and efficient for us to help large numbers of people. So any entity that would like to sponsor something like this, whether it's an association like Minnesota Nurses Association, or whether it's an employer like Hazel and Betty Ford, or any health systems that we work with, they can come to us. We will create a completely custom experience for them and implement in a very short period of time with our unique expertise.
Another key aspect to Quala where we can provide value is for those nurses who may not want to meet with us face to face. There are a lot of people who have a fear with meeting with us. Sometimes people look at us like the dentist or something, where they're just intimidated by having that conversation one-on-one. So I think this is a good introductory tool for them to use to be able to get the help and the advice that they need if they are a little bit fearful of meeting with us. There are also people who have some hesitation just with meeting with people in general and have some social anxiety. So that can be beneficial for those people as well. So I think Paula is really going to change things and really be impactful. We also see a lot of young nurses who just want to be on the phone, so they can get advice right at their fingertips. So Dan, one other thing I want to discuss, I know our group advisory provides value to nurses, but how are we actually providing value to the employers? How are they benefiting from our group advisory agreement?
So I think one of the surprising aspects of our relationship with that initial hospital was they had a very confrontational relationship with specifically their nurses. And that's why their benefits director said to me, would you work with our nurses? Because these people would come in, they'd get hired, they would go to their HR benefits department and they would say, okay, what do I do? And of course, HR and benefits would describe what they have. Like, we have a 401k, here's our match, here's how it works. But this nurse just wanted to know what to do. Well, of course, HR and benefits couldn't do that for them. So they learned very quickly that when that nurse came in, the nurse would get frustrated, and the HR benefits people would say, call Dan. And then those nurses would call me. Of course, I can actually tell them what to do. That's what it means to be a certified financial planner. They would walk away going, wow, this was great, because most places just do generic education. They don't actually do real advice and planning. So they would go back to the HR benefits people much happier, smiling, and saying, this was fantastic. And so they realized very quickly that this was an opportunity for them to provide a much improved experience between the employees and the benefits, which have in recent years really moved to like an 800 number service center type of concept, or online in a very general type of setting. And so nobody knows, as the world's become more complicated, these people don't know their benefits. And they're leaving a lot on the table, despite the fact that the employers are spending a lot of money to sponsor 401k plans, health insurance, life insurance, all these different types of benefits. So I think to the employer, they were surprised at how much improved the employee experience was with their own benefits people. So we would argue that employees obviously are getting the most out of these types of interactions. But in today's world, for an employer to show they care that much to spend money on a program to enhance your quality of life, that truly sets these companies apart. And that's not normal in this world.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially in the healthcare industry right now, there is a struggle with employee retention. And something like this, I know even with our agreement with the Minnesota Nurses Association, we're able to show them the value of their pension, which can be a retention tool for them. A lot of nurses come in not understanding the pension and not knowing, how valuable that benefit is to them. So if we're able to walk them through that and explain that, that helps with employee retention as well. So I think we're offering value on both ends, to the employee as well as to the employer.
So the challenge, Leah, is what we do is so unusual and so unique that employers get bombarded with, whether it's custodians or other groups trying to sell them stuff.
Yeah.
You've seen that challenge too. So like, how does an employer even know or understand that what we're doing is something different? And then the value to their employees, they look at that and go, well, like, what is that worth? So that's a major challenge that as we go through these conversations together, we'll show people that, we're going to have case studies, we're going to have other things illustrating the value of what quality of life planning really truly means in the real world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time to have this discussion with me today. And we look forward to you all tuning in next week as we share more about quality of life planning and what we do, how we do it, and how it can benefit you.
Thanks, Leah.
Thanks.